Love is eternal. But what if it refuses to let go? I never believed in love at first sight until I met her. It was a quiet evening when I first saw Elena, the woman who would change my life forever. I had just moved into an old town, a place wrapped in history and whispers of the past. The air was thick with the scent of rain-soaked roses, and the cobblestone streets gleamed under the soft glow of the street lamps. I found a small, tucked-away cafe, hidden between aged bookstores and antique shops, where the sound of soft music and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee seemed to transport me to a different era. That's where I saw her, sitting alone by the window, her fingers tracing the rim of her teacup with a gentle, ethereal touch. Her presence was magnetic, drawing me in with an otherworldly force. Deep brown eyes that held galaxies, lips painted the color of autumn leaves, and long, flowing hair that cascaded over her shoulders like black silk. She was a vision of beauty, a masterpiece of nature. As I approached her, my heart racing with anticipation, I felt a sense of trepidation, as if I was stepping into a dream world where reality no longer applied. Our conversation flowed like we had known each other in another life, our words intertwining like the threads of a rich tapestry. We talked about books, about music, about the way the world seemed to slow down in places like this, where time stood still, and the past seemed to whisper secrets in our ears. Her smile was soft, knowing, and it seemed to hold 1,000 secrets, 1,000 promises of a love that would last an eternity. I was entranced, captivated by her presence, and I knew in that moment I was lost forever. The hours passed like minutes, the minutes like seconds, and before I knew it, the cafe was closing, and we were walking out into the cool night air, the stars twinkling above us like diamonds in the sky. We strolled through the streets, hand in hand, our footsteps echoing off the buildings, our laughter and conversation weaving a spell of enchantment around us. It was as if we were the only two people in the world, and nothing else mattered, nothing else existed. But as the nights turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, I began to notice strange things. Elena would often disappear for hours, only to return with a faint smile on her lips and a faraway look in her eyes. She would whisper strange phrases in her sleep, phrases that sounded like incantations, like spells. And I would find her standing in front of the mirror, staring at her reflection with a look of intense longing, as if she was searching for something or someone. I tried to brush it off as mere fantasy, but the feeling of unease grew, like a creeping sense of dread that I couldn't shake off. And then, there were the roses. Everywhere we went, there were roses. In the cafe, in the streets, even in her hair. It was as if she was surrounded by an aura of roses, a symbol of love and passion. but also of death and decay. I couldn't help but feel that something was off, that something was waiting in the shadows, watching us, waiting for us to make a wrong move. One night, I waited for her at the cafe, but she didn't show up. I waited for an hour, 2 hours, but she was nowhere to be found. The cafe owner, an elderly man with tired eyes, noticed my restless glances. "Who are you waiting for?" he finally asked. "Elena," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "She comes here every night." His face paled. His hands trembled as he set down a cup. "Son, Elena died 70 years ago." My breath caught. My heart stopped. I laughed, a nervous, disbelieving laugh. "That's impossible," I said. "I've been with her. We've talked, touched." The old man reached under the counter, pulled out something, and placed it in front of me. A newspaper, yellowed, fragile, and on the front page, Elena's face. The headline, "Bride vanishes on wedding night, body never recovered." A chill ran through me. My hands shook as I read. She had been engaged on the night of her wedding. She was last seen near the old bridge by the lake. She never made it to the altar. As I stumbled out of the cafe, heart pounding, legs weak, I felt a sense of dread wash over me. The streets seemed to twist and turn like a labyrinth, and I felt like I was being pulled into a nightmare from which I might never awaken. And then, I smelled it. Roses. The scent was overpowering, suffocating, and I felt myself being drawn to it, like a moth to a flame. I turned, and there she was, standing beneath the flickering street lamp, wearing the same white dress she had been buried in. Her eyes were black as coal, and her smile was a cold, mirthless thing. "You promised you wouldn't leave me," she whispered, her breath cold against my skin. I tried to pull away, but she held me fast, her fingers like a vice. I was trapped, caught in a web of secrets and lies, and I knew that I would never be able to escape. The roses seemed to be closing in around me, their scent suffocating, and I felt myself being pulled down into a darkness from which I might never emerge. Elena's face was the last thing I saw, her eyes burning with a fierce and otherworldly intensity, before everything went black. As I stood there, frozen in terror, Elena's grip on my wrist tightened. But then, something unexpected happened. Her eyes, which had been black as coal, began to fade back to their normal deep brown. Her smile, which had been cold and mirthless, softened into a warm and gentle one. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just didn't want to let you go." I felt a wave of relief wash over me as I realized that Elena was still the same person I had fallen in love with. I took a deep breath and wrapped my arms around her, holding her close. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered back. "I love you, Elena." And as we stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, I felt the darkness that had been surrounding us begin to lift. The roses that had been suffocating me began to fade away, and I felt a sense of peace and happiness that I had never felt before. We stood there for a long time, holding each other, and I knew that our love would conquer all, even death itself. Want to hear more? Subscribe to our channel for more terrifying tales of love and horror, and if you dare, share your own story of eternal love or eternal terror. But be warned, once you listen, there's no turning back. The darkness will consume you, and you'll be forever trapped in a world of horror and despair. So, if you're ready to face your deepest fears, if you're ready to confront the darkness that lurks within, then join us on this journey into the heart of terror. But don't say we didn't warn you.